Today at 4:17 a.m. local time, 8 Ukrainian long-range drones were reported flying through a Russian river valley at approximately 200-meter altitude. They emitted no GPS and no radar. Instead, using barometric sensors and preloaded terrain data to hold height over ground. For the last 50 kilometers, the navigation profile had worked as planned. The routing and aim points suggest a fuel and pipeline complex as the objective. The spacing of the drones and their emission discipline indicated a design to minimize early detection and preserve. Surprise for the terminal phase. Minutes later, the air picture changed. Unexpectedly, and an Mi-24, hined on an unscheduled. Patrol detected engine noise and turned into the valley with weapons ready. At nearly the same moment, 2 Ukrainian R-360 Neptune missiles launched on separated flight paths. The timing suggests a deception plan. Pull. Russian search radars and operator. Attention toward high signature missiles while the low signature drones advanced. The first Neptune climbed to roughly 15,000 ft and presented a radar cross-section, closer to a small aircraft than a low observable cruise missile. There was no pretense of stealth, only an invitation to be seen and engaged. Russian S-400 operators, following doctrine, locked and fired at the salient high-altitude threat. Although the system can track many targets, operators typically prioritize the most salient missile first. This step shaped the defense's priorities. So the main effort, the low drones, could move through a thinner seam. Meanwhile, the lead drone continued along the river at 200 meters, cross-checking a barometric altimeter against stored terrain at short intervals. 7 drones followed at staggered distance to avoid forming a single composite radar return. When Drone 5 detected power lines 200 meters ahead, it executed a programmed microclimb, cleared by a narrow margin and dropped back into contour. The trailing aircraft mirrored the path. Each evasive action cost speed and climb margin, but it preserved the formation's signature control. The second Neptune missile dropped to around 15 mem and sped up to about 900 km/h using its radar, altimeter near minimum safe thresholds, for intermittent visibility. This tactic was designed to briefly trigger alarms before disappearing. Drone 1 detected the passing missile 2 kilometers south. This missile acted as a decoy, diverting Russian sensors while quieter threats continued. The S-400's engagement on the high Neptune was textbook. 2 interceptors launched, pulling heavy G, and destroyed the target 8 seconds later at 15,000 ft, confirmed as a clean kill. Attention then shifted to the second Neptune. Hidden by terrain masking and the Earth's curvature below the radar horizon, appearing briefly in pop-ups, this routine of appearing, alarming, and vanishing occupied tracking channels and operator attention, diverting focus from the accumulating low-altitude threat. The effect was a kick-the-door tactic. Decoy forward, main effort low. The second, Neptune hit the front door while drones targeted side windows. Drone 2 saw 3 BTR armored carriers on the M3 but kept going. A soldier stepping away from a vehicle heard the lawnmower buzz and radioed a contact report. Within 30 seconds, Sector Command was triangulating reports, estimating 8 low-flying contacts heading toward a pipeline station. The drones split into pre-programmed evasion patterns. Drone 6-8 bent north along a railroad. Drones 3 to 5 pressed deeper into the valley. Drones 1-2 stayed higher and more visible to carry the decoy burden. Drone 4's infrared feed flared, white with turbine. Heat from an approaching Mi-24. Kinematics were simple. Helicopter near 280, drones near 150 intercept in minutes. Mission timer showed 9 minutes to target. The timeline forced both sides to accept risk, one to close and kill, the other to endure long enough to arrive. The second Neptune sharply ascended to 5,000 DFT, about 10 kilometers from the fuel node. Radars reacquired it, triggering alarms across commands. The climb was illogical for a direct strike, but perfect for provoking a point defense response at a critical moment. The first Mi-24 arrived overhead, crewed by a pilot with Afghan training and a less experienced gunner. At dawn, with limited thermal aids, they relied on optics. Poor conditions for tracking small, fast targets. The Mi-24's 12.7mm Yakbi Gatling opened fire. High rate of fire did not overcome the lead problem at that range. A suitcase-sized drone crossed the reticle faster than the turret could slew and stabilize. After extended bursts, 3 rounds struck Drone 2 around center fuselage. Telemetry ceased instantly and wreckage fell into a field. The exchange underlined a constant. Against small, low-contrast targets at first light, angular lead and steady cues matter more than raw rate of fire. Drones 3 of 5 advanced when Drone 3's camera revealed a low bridge too sudden to bypass and too low to underfly. All 3 executed emergency climbs, breaking terrain masking at the worst point. The helicopter switched to S-80 unguided rockets designed for area suppression. A short ripple destroyed Drone 4 outright and shredded Drone 5's wing, forcing it into the river. Drone 3 cleared the bridge and dropped back to masking altitude. Rotor diameter and safety margins prevented the helicopter from pressing into narrow corridors. The second Neptune continued its hide-and-seek routine. At around 8 kilometers from the site, it climbed to about 3,000 FT, presenting a clean problem to point defense. A Panzer S-1 battery commander took the shot. Multiple missiles rippled. Overlapping detonations produced a sustained fireball. Defenders scored a second kill and felt a surge of confidence. Attention, however, fixed on the southern glow as another approach vector matured from the north. From the northern axis, drones 6, 7, and 8 followed the railroad at about 50 meter altitude. Still undetected by units oriented south, a second Mi-24 rose from behind the trees. This crew adopted smarter tactics, infrared instead of searchlights, and scored hits on Drone 6. Drone 7's random heading evasion failed to shake the helicopter, leaving Drone 8's straight path unopposed. The first Mi-24 chasing Drone 3 was low on ammo and frustrated. Poor radio deconfliction hindered coordination. Flares were ineffective against small drones. On the rooftops around the pipeline station, Russian soldiers deployed Igla-S man-pads, but small piston engines produced low thermal contrast. The first shooter failed to get a lock, fired blind, and the missile went ballistic. 2 more teams repeated the failure. One Igla achieved proximity detonation. Drone 8's wing was damaged by fragments. It lost precision but drifted toward the tank area. Amid rooftop fire and helicopter hunting, Drone 1 reached the main transformer substation. Its classifier matched heat signatures of high-value electrical infrastructure, and the warhead armed. Zu-23 guns opened on sound. Shilka radar struggled with low-altitude slow objects. Manual mode offered little improvement. Under these conditions, small attackers held the edge. Drone 6 hit the pumping substation at about 180 km/h. Its 20-kilo warhead breached the roof and detonated among pumps. Petroleum vapor ignited. Drone 3, inbound from the east, lost control after Zu-23 hits and struck the control building, destroying instrumentation and emergency shutoff systems. With control gone, petroleum kept flowing, pressure rose, and failure cascaded. Drone 7 reached Tank 2, climbed, then dove vertically to maximize penetration. Drone 8, heavily damaged, drifted into Tank 3's base as its battery died. The result? A bleave, boiling liquid expanding vapor explosion. Rapid expansion ruptured adjacent tanks and ignited multiple points. In seconds, the facility became an uncontrolled industrial disaster. The Ukrainian strategy used layered deception, decoys to trigger radar, splitting formations, exploiting helicopter coordination gaps, and targeting control nodes for maximum effect. Russia downed 2 Neptunes and 3 drones. But sensor fixation, coordination failures, and reliance on outdated systems allowed critical damage. The strike disabled a fuel and pipeline node, creating a costly asymmetry. Cheap drones inflicted multi-million-dollar damage. By first light, drones 1, 3, 6, 7, and 8 had executed enough of the plan to disable core site functions. Drones 2, 4, 5 were lost, both Neptunes intercepted. Visible evidence: burned tanks, a damaged control building, ruptured piping demonstrated the practical outcome, disrupted flow, expensive repairs, diverted resources. Investigators will use telemetry and logs to reconstruct sequences. Commanders will review radio failures. Procurement will weigh counter-UAS investments. Strategists will revise doctrine around deception and low-altitude fusion. Today's strike illustrates a central reality of modern war. Small autonomous systems with disciplined signatures and time deception can impose outsized costs on high-value infrastructure.